Hey guys, I thought I would do another life before cancer video. This one, it's continued after my cancer diagnosis, but there's a definite difference between what it used to be and what it is now, and that's camping. I love to go camping. We've always loved to go camping, and our all-time favorite spot is a super remote little campground up on Mount Hood. And you have to take old forest roads. Technically, you're taking the old Barlow Trail road that the Oregon Trail settlers would take down. And it's, there's been ups and downs in how it's maintained. And at this point, you can't get to this campground really unless you have a 4-wheel drive high lifted truck. Otherwise you have to kind of get creative and if you want to even get back to this spot. But it does have a set outdoor pit toilet, and at one point it was only 2 sites and now it's 4, but it's completely unmaintained at this point because there's no easy way to get to it. There's 2, the Barlow Road connects to different other Forest Service roads, and there's 2 different directions you can go toward it, but there's bridges that you have to cross. And the easiest way to get there, that bridge officially collapsed a few years ago. And so there's another road that runs parallel to it. That how we've gotten back there is we've taken that parallel road, and then there's a spot where there used to be a bridge right where that campground is, and we can cross, we can walk across the creek carrying all of our stuff to the campground. But like I said, it used to be a little easier to get back there. You could take a car, but it's about 2.5 miles back, and so you're just creeping along trying not to hit giant ruts or giant rocks. You always have to bring a chainsaw because trees might have fallen across the road. And it is literally just like I said, at one point it only had 2 designated spots. Now it's 4, and you are just surrounded by trees and green things at this beautiful creek. And this has been our go-to camping spot for years and years and years. It's where Josh and his family came when he was younger as well. So for him, it has this, really long-term, thing that he can hold on to. But it was always a lot easier before cancer, because once cancer hit, when I was on treatment or different things, I always had to have a bathroom close by because all of my treatments always ended up having GI issues and usually diarrhea, things like that. And so if we went, we had to make sure that that pit toilet was still being maintained and all of that. And then sometimes just not feeling good. I couldn't really help too much with the setup and the takedown of camp and or just the running around with the kids because I didn't have the energy to do it anymore. I was lucky that Brayden was about 5 for my first diagnosis, and so he was old enough that when we did decide to go camping and stuff, that he was pretty self-sustaining. Yes, we still had to make sure that we were, around and stuff, but it wasn't like having a toddler. He knew, we could set, boundaries and things, and he would listen and stay where he needed to be. Having Rayla and trying to go back there, we've only gone, I think, twice. And like I said, it's a bit more complicated now to get there. We have to actually cross the creek, walk through the water. And it's not a huge creek, but it's not a tiny creek either. And so it takes a bit to manage all of that. And, but I think one of the best things about this place is, like I said, there's all these old forest roads that there was one where that other bridge is right at the campground that goes and it connects to the Barlow Road, but it's been unmaintained for ages. And so now you can tell where there had been a gravel road, but now a bunch of trees have crossed it, and then there's things starting to grow in the road, and it's just this really neat feeling of you always picture I hate saying this, like the apocalypse like things and like nature taking back over. And it's kind of like that, but not so dark. Like it's very, very nice. We usually, most of the wildlife and stuff that we see are these jays that at one point, like you could like put bread in your hands and hold it up and they would swoop down and take the bread from your hands. Occasionally you'd see deer or signs of deer. And then at night you can hear like owls hooting and things as well. I think we've only ever heard, they were probably coyotes once. And we know that they're all there. There's black bears in the area. There's all these different things, but we've never really seen them. Like we've seen signs of them, like bear scat and things like that. But yeah, so we've always enjoyed camping. And so we'd always walk along that old Forest Service road that was not maintained, get to the Barlow Road, and we just do a loop back to the campground. And then you could also do the other way where you could just start taking the Barlow Road out to where the main road is. And like I said, that's about a 2-mile walk. Well, about a half a mile down that way was this little spot when Braden was really little. That was about as far as he could walk on his 2 little legs. And so we'd always stop there and there was this giant rock off the side of the road. And it was like this perfect little slide for him. He could climb up one side and then slide down the next. And from when he was about a year old up until even now, we have dubbed this Braden's Rock. And he every time will run and jump on top of it. He introduced it to his sister last summer. And so now she has enjoyed being able to slide down just this rock that's just off the side of, an old Forest Service road, but it is Braden's Rock. I remember the first time it was covered with all of this debris and stuff it was right under a tree. And just us coming, it's a little sad. Like it had moss and stuff growing on it and stuff, but just from him playing on it, all that kind of stuff got cleared off. And it has continued to maintain that cleared off aspect for the most part because we're there at least once a year. And, yeah, I know I'm rambling, but man, this place is so cool. And I wish part of me wishes I could share it with everybody. And then I also want to be like, nope, nobody else needs to know about this place. This is our place. And we've always had such a great time. And anyone we have met who have been out there as well has always been so kind. And usually they have some kind of history with this campsite as well. We met a couple where multiple times we ended up camping next to them and they had it must have been, was a type of spaniel? Was it a spaniel or was it a golden retriever? I honestly can't remember at this point. I think it might have been a golden retriever. His name was Fred. And that was when Braden was really little, like toddler age, and he would just sit there and play with Fred and just throw like sticks for Fred for ages. And that was what actually ended up getting us to decide to get a dog of our own, was because of his interactions with Fred. We went up once and when Braden was smaller too, and there was a dad and older son. They were like college age kids and their dads were all out camping. They were, and they were drinking, but they were being very nice and very polite. And at one point they set up, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Beersby, but essentially you get like a pole and it goes in the ground and a beer sits on top of it. So it's very, precarious as far as like it could fall with any movement. And you play with a Frisbee and the goal is each team is throwing a Frisbee trying to knock the beer of the other team down. Well, Braden saw, I can't remember how old he was, maybe 4, maybe 5. It was right around there, where he saw them playing with Frisbees and wanted to play too. And they let him. And so he came over and he just started throwing it and they couldn't believe it. He had a better aim than all of them put together. And so he's the one that kept knocking the beers down. And I was like, thinking the first time he'd ever really played with a Frisbee or anything. And they're like, hey, little man. And they always they'd see him in the morning. They'd give him high fives. And he ended up spending, I feel like, more time with them than he did with us. So this site and this area has always been this joy for us. And we do like camping other places too. And unfortunately, with after cancer, it has been a lot more challenging. It's, especially with the pain that I've been in. When we tried to go last summer, it was really difficult for me. I was hurting a lot. And we ended up not getting to stay like quite the whole time anyway, because our dog got injured and we had to drive back and get her to the vet. But it was actually ended up being a good thing, because I wasn't doing so hot, and was just hurting a lot. So that's one thing that, you know, is a big bummer as far as the after cancer thing. And but we'll find ways to keep going, whether it's to that spot or to some other spots. We've talked about maybe getting a little like camper trailer that our little SUV could pull, but that's, you know, money. And so, I mean, but there's all kinds of different things we could do. An air mattress is tough, especially with dogs, but it can work. So yeah, so that's life before cancer, the joy of camping. Okay, I know I mostly just rambled through that whole thing, but that's, you know, how life is sometimes. So rambling away. All right, guys, I appreciate you. If you managed to stay watching through this whole thing, thank you. I appreciate you. Be kind, make good choices, and I will see you later. Bye.